From the bayou to the Rocky Mountains, and the depths of the Pacific to the sandbars of New England, this is Boat Trader's Stomping Grounds. From small bass boats to giant offshore titans and everything in between, boaters across America show us why they love their boat and exactly what makes it the perfect vessel for their neck of the woods. In this episode, we're heading to Big Sky Country, out to the untamed wilderness of Montana. Known as one of the last unspoiled natural areas in America, Montana's shining mountains, high wide open spaces, and crystal clear waters make it one of the country's favorite boating regions. Here, vast forests and clear mountain streams provide a pure, untouched habitat for many sensitive species, including the threatened grizzly bear and a variety of fish species. Our first stop is Bigfork, a quaint lakeside community nestled on the shores of Flathead Lake, a pristine body of water fed by the wild and scenic rivers that surround it, including the three forks of the Flathead River.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan McVinney and welcome back to another episode of Stomping Grounds. I'm standing here in Bigfork, Montana, overlooking the eastern shore of Flathead Lake, which is the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. It's also one of the top 10 cleanest lakes in the world, which we'll learn more about later. In this episode, we're gonna go explore boating life on the rivers and lakes around the region. So let's go meet up with some locals and hear their stories.
Our first stop was to pick up supplies for the week of exploring we had in store. The crew for this episode was me, our field producer Caroline,
We're just the workers.
and our cinematographer Felipe.
We're stocking up our cabin, which is right on Flathead Lake, and we're gonna have some locals over, and we're gonna go for boat rides, and it's gonna be an awesome time.
All right, so how are you feeling about this stocked up situation?
When you're going to spend all day on the water, it's important to properly provision with enough water, snacks, and sunscreen for everyone on board. We settled into our cabin on the water with its own private dock and started to meet the neighbors, including the local wildlife.
Well, you can see why they call Montana Big Sky Country out here. Looked over and we got our neighbors that are working on an old 57 correct craft, which is a lot like a Chris craft. I'm gonna go over and check it out.
You guys have been working on this for 18 years, huh? Yeah.
We finally got serious about it about 6 months ago and said we really need to finish this up before we get too old and can't even crawl underneath the dashboard anymore.
As the sun began to lower on our first day at Flathead Lake, we sat on the docks and felt quickly at home, as members of the local boating community passed by, waved and welcomed us warmly while they enjoyed a typical lakeside Montana sunset. Driving on the roads around Bigfork and Flathead Lake, you definitely feel the immensity of the wide openness of Montana, making it clear why Anthony Bourdain once said, "People here must learn to bend to the land and become hunters and anglers more as a necessity than a hobby." As you drive into the center of town, you feel taken back to an earlier Western way of life. An unadulterated, ruggedly independent vibe fills the air. This is where we met Lance, a local free spirit deemed the unofficial mayor of Bigfork, who was eager to show us his stomping grounds.
Morning! How are ya? Yeah. My brother calls me the unofficial mayor of Bigfork, so. I came into the pontoon business. I didn't want a speedboat. I didn't want a tube. I didn't want to ski. I didn't want any of that stuff. I wanted a pontoon boat where people can relax, enjoy. It's safe. You can walk around. You can bring food, So that's kind of where it started from, and that just evolved from there. When I do captain a boat or charter a boat, it's just usually someone that just wants to relax. They want to take their time and have someone tell them about the local population, some of the attractions around the lake, and so that's usually about a 4 to 5 hour cruise.
Pontoon boats are the perfect type of vessel to enjoy that laid-back, low-pressure lake life. Built on top of interconnected buoyant tubes that keep them afloat, and topped with a large flat deck outfitted with luxury furniture and premium sound systems. These boats combine an ideal platform for lounging and sunbathing.
This is a Premier. It's a 21 foot with a 40 horse. Some people sometimes are like, oh, it's only a 40 horse? And I'm like, well, if you're in a hurry on the lake, then you're here for the wrong purpose. So in my opinion, you're on a pontoon boat. This boat gets you on the water. It gets you where you need to go, shows you what you want to do. So that's why I choose the pontoon business.
One of the industry's hallmark pontoon brands, Premier Marine, has been designing and manufacturing pontoon boats for over 30 years at a variety of price points, from their Sunspree family line to their Performance Tune Super Sport line and their over-the-top exotic double-decker Escalante model, featuring a 12-foot upper deck lounge complete with a water slide.
The Swan River and the Flathead River come together and they feed this lake, and that's why it's called Bigfork.
Okay.
Yeah. Flathead Lake used to be a part of Glacier Lake, Missoula. And so that was a much larger lake. And then in 1930, it was dammed, and the Kerr Dam in Polson, and then the dam up in Hungry Horse. The lake is regulated by both those dams. Any kind of boat you can possibly imagine we have here. Paddleboards, kayaks, fishing boats, we have pontoon boats, we have cigarette boats that visit here, and the fishing here is incredible.
Check out the color of the water here. It's like gin clear turquoise green.
Yeah, Flathead Lake is rated one of the cleanest lakes in the world.
That's what we were learning. One of the top 10 in the world.
Yes,
right?
and it is the largest freshwater landlocked lake west of the Mississippi River.
All right, yeah.
At 27 miles long and 15.5 miles wide, Flathead Lake is the largest natural freshwater lake west of the Mississippi in the lower 48 states. With a maximum depth of around 400 feet, the lake offers 185 miles of shoreline and over 200 square miles of water.
What are you catching? All right. Any whitefish or? Okay. Today we just did more of the north end of the lake, so down to Woods Bay, out to the middle, up the river a little bit, and we've covered the north side of the lake. The reason why we're starting to see more logs and debris in the water is because we're heading towards Woods Bay, and unofficially I'd say that's probably why it's named that, because the logs eventually make their way down the lake and to the sides, depends on the storms and the wind, some as big as trees.
You guys pulled that out today?
We did!
Yeah, this is.
Nice.
This log we're approaching right now, it's been here as long as I can remember. I don't know how deep it is where it's at, but I know it's got to be pretty deep, but pretty famous spot for the kids to jump off. I think Caroline should jump off it today. I mean, that would just be my guess.
Anything for the shot.
Anything for the shot. Stomping Grounds here. Anything for the shot.
Is there any predators?
You are now Montana girl!
What is that? There's something next to you.
We'll catch up to you tomorrow. We're out of here. See you, girl. See ya. Have a good time.
What is it?
It's probably in the 60s. That's what it is. Most people think, when they think Montana, they think we still have outhouses. They still think, we're kind of a little bit behind the times, which we are, which is fine. I love it that way. But they don't see Montana as a boating place. They kind of see us as more of like, the Wild West. And you wouldn't think this to be, a recreational boating area, but this lake has definitely grown in that aspect, and it's incredible. It's a miracle. I am Lance Nadeau, and these are my stomping grounds.
After touring the northern part of the lake with Lance, we headed into town for some lunch and ran across Bigfork Anglers, a family-owned fly shop and guide service, where we met with the owner, Jason, who gave us some tips on fishing and boating in the area.
So we're here in downtown Bigfork and just wandered down Electric Avenue, right?
Yep, Electric Avenue, just like the song.
Yeah, man, for any Eddie Grant fans out there, I don't know, not a lot of people know that song actually these days, but I jam out to it.
It's because of the old power plant. It's right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they divert water out of the river, ship it down, keep it a little bit high, drop it through a power plant right there, and that used to power the town back in the day.
Okay.
Electric Avenue.
Anyways, we're here with Jason at Bigfork Anglers. Just stumbled on your shop. So what do you guys do here?
Well, I mean, obviously we sell fish and stuff, but our main gig is taking people fishing.
Yeah.
In boats, turns out.
For people that don't know about drift boats, can you explain what a drift boat is?
Essentially a river dory that's been kind of evolved into a more fly fishing specific craft. And then there's, kind of even more evolved into the Rockies into, you know, fly fishing, Rocky Mountain River type boats. And
When did you start getting into fishing?
boy, I was a little kid. My dad was into it. He got me into fishing when I was a little kid, and he was into fly fishing, and he got me into that when I was in elementary school. And so I've done it my whole life and turned it into a job. So here I am, 50, and I'm still doing it.
So you guys focus on the shallows up in the river?
Yeah, we're mostly floating the rivers and fishing for cutthroat and rainbows and brown trout, depending on whatever drainage that we're in. All the rivers in Montana are managed as wild trout fisheries.
Oh, okay.
Even though these fish, a lot of the brown trout and the rainbow trout were introduced back in, early 1900s, they're all wild now, and they quit planting fish in the rivers in the 70s, and now they're all wild. And here, specifically, we have not only wild fish, but west slope cutthroat and bull trout are native. And beyond that, they're also federally protected. Bull trout are endangered, cutthroat are a species of special concern. So we let them go.
Okay.
Love them and leave them, right?
Gotcha, okay.
Hi, I'm Jason, and this is my stomping grounds.
Passing the many cherry trees that flourish on the hills above the water here, we stumbled upon one of the country's oldest biological field stations, the Flathead Biological Station. Researchers here study the local watershed and ecology to understand both natural and human-induced effects. Associate Director Tom Bansak welcomed us and was happy to explain the organization's work, shedding light on the waterways, fisheries, and ecosystems.
The Flathead Lake Biological Station is one of the oldest field stations in the United States. We've been here since 1899. We specialize in freshwater research. We do work around the globe. We've worked on almost every continent, but our flagship programs are here in the Flathead watershed. Flathead Lake in particular, right behind me, but also the entire watershed and the river systems that flow into Flathead Lake here. I'm a freshwater ecologist. I got my master's here at the biological station back in the 1990s. I moved from back east to Montana to work here at the station to get my degree. And when I got here, it just kind of felt like home. I'm really proud of this biological station's track record of bringing our information and our knowledge into the decision-making arena, engaging politicians and other elected officials, helping managers by providing data and scientific expertise so they can best do their job. As a water scientist, I'm very passionate about the waters of our state, nation, and beyond, and love to recreate in it personally. And I see aquatic recreation of all kinds, but especially boating as a way for anyone and everyone to really connect with a special resource that we all share and subsequently need to understand and protect.
One of the highlights of Flathead Lake is Wild Horse Island, an unspoiled island on the southern side of the lake, where horses still roam free and boaters can pull up to explore the serene natural landscape. The largest island on the lake, this 2,165-acre nature preserve, is only accessible by boat and is home to a variety of wildlife, including bighorn sheep, mule deer, bald eagles, and of course, wild horses.
Naturally, we had to make a visit to Wild Horse, so we met up with a local family running a small runabout boat who offered to take us over to the island and explore more in person. We met in the town of Polson on the southern side of the lake, where a busy marina was packed full of all different types of boats. This is where we found Mary Martin, who grew up boating on the lake.
My family's been coming here for decades, close to 100 years, so we try to get out here in the summers whenever we can. I love being outside and being on the water and the fresh air. This really is the Montana wilderness out here. It definitely has a special place in my heart. Today we run a Chaparral Runabout boat. It's a great boat to cruise around with friends and family.
All right, everyone, here's the Chaparral SSI 204. Great family, fun little runabout bow rider. Nice swim platform off the back. You got ladders off the bow and stern.
The term runabout is used to describe any fast, compact, open power boat. And nimble bow riders under 25 feet are some of the most popular runabouts on lakes and rivers across the country. One of the largest manufacturers of bow riders in the country, Chaparral Boats, has been building high-quality family boats since 1965. The company's SSI series offers everyday boaters a well-appointed premium line of runabouts from 19 to 23 feet in either stern drive or outboard versions. Built over the builder's award-winning extended V-plane hulls, these sporty vessels can hit speeds of over 50 miles per hour while being easy to handle, comfortable, well-engineered, and moderately priced.
Our float plan was to head up Polson Bay past Finley Point and through a narrow waterway flanked by small islands, aptly named the Narrows. This heavily timbered, peaceful section of the lake is full of pebble beaches, magnificent views, and abundant wildlife, along with steep, rocky cliffs that many locals jump off in the summer.
There's some great jumping cliffs out here, so that's kind of a family tradition. It's an adrenaline rush for sure. It's something we look forward to every year out here. I love cruising on the lake. We paddleboard and kayak and canoe. We've seen mountain lions before, bighorn sheep. A bald eagle flew over our boat today, which was super cool.
That was a ball.
We went to Wild Horse Island. It's a state park and there's still wild horses out there. I've had some family see wild horses just cruising around the island, which is super cool. We see deer, lots of wildlife, great views.
Wild Horse Island gets its name because the native peoples around here used to put their horses on the island for safekeeping, so other bands or other people wouldn't be able to steal their horses.
A little local hangout, boating destination here. A bunch of kids, a bunch of boats beached up on the backside of Wild Horse Island, and we're gonna go, there's some trails that we can go hike, so go check it out. All right, we've got the boat secured, tied up on a big fallen tree that is not going anywhere. So we're gonna go walk around and see if we can find some of these wild horses that Wild Horse Island is named after. If we get lucky, we might see one. Mary Martin's is her stomping grounds, and she's gonna help us find our way around. So let's go check it out. Kind of unmatched beauty out here in Montana country. We've got big, huge pine trees. We've already seen a few young deer hopping around the woods. We're still looking for the elusive horses.
We made our way through the woods and along a series of trails up to the Seco Bay Trail to a lookout point high above the lake. Although we didn't get a chance to see any of the wild horses in person ourselves, it was a stunning experience with picturesque views and a magical feel. We happened to meet a local woman who shared with us how she's fed the horses by hand many times.
Just talk calmly to him.
I'm Mary Martin, and these are my stomping grounds.
We ended our day at a local boat-up restaurant named The Raven, where we sat on the docks, grabbed a drink, and watched the sunset.
What do you think of Bigfork, Montana?
Beautiful, pretty awesome.
It was a bustling scene with some great live music and friendly locals.
All right, everyone, after a successful day on the water with some new friends, we're gonna kick back and relax here, a lakeside bonfire, maybe make some marshmallows, have a cocktail, and get some rest before we find some new adventures on the water tomorrow.
The next morning I woke up early, grabbed a coffee, and walked down to the dock. Looking out at the lake, I could imagine what it must have been like 100 or 200 years ago here, and I wanted to learn more about the local history. With the lake being half on the Flathead Indian Reservation, I was particularly interested in the history of the tribes here, the Salish and the Kootenay, and what their relationship with the lake and the waterways was like, what kind of boats they may have used, and how they lived off the land. So I drove south down to the St. Ignatius Longhouse, run by the Confederated Salish and Kootenay tribes of Flathead Nation, to to learn more about the tribal people's history and way of life. Stephen Small Salmon, a tribal elder from the Flathead Reservation, and Steve Arca, a Salish language teacher at Salish Kootenay College, graciously agreed to chat with me.
It's very sacred, that lake. Indian people used to camp there and hunt there at Blue Bay. That was the stories, you know. They swim in it, fish in it. That was their highways. That was their roads, you know. That's what they marked the trees. Oh, I've been through here, you know. And they lived on that lake. They depend on that lake. Not just that lake, but the waters. They used to travel. And canoes, like that, you know.
We honor the water in so many different great ways. It gives life to plants, it gives life to the animals. Waterways were our highways, you know, like those canoes. We're just now trying to bring that back. It's a real struggle, just as a language. Our mode of travel was Sturgeon nose canoes, the dugout canoes, and that was our mode of travel.
The sturgeon-nosed canoe, also known as the Kootenay canoe, is a unique canoe design used by native tribes in Montana in the Pacific Northwest. Characterized by its sharp ends and reverse slope at the bow and stern, these boats are typically between 10 to 14 feet in length and made of birch, spruce, fir, or white pine bark. Capable of carrying up to 6 people and supplies, it was suitable for navigating through various water conditions such as marshes, rivers, and lakes.
A couple years ago, 3 years ago or so, we had a gentleman from the Spokane Reservation. We contracted him, and he came over and built a sturgeon nose canoe, kind of like this, but it's got the tips going all the way out, and he's using synthetic skins on it. And so we have that at our school in Kusum, and then my nephew just finished a bark canoe, a smaller bark canoe, about 17-footer. And it's a dugout, and they just dug it all out and go. So next week they're going to put them on, test that one out in the water. But we want to reestablish that within our people and get them out in the waters.
Dugout canoes are boats created by carving out the inside of a felled tree trunk. They are the oldest known type of boat, with examples dating back over 8,000 years. Indigenous peoples of the Americas, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, commonly used these vessels, typically between 20 to 40 feet in length. They could reach up to 60 feet long.
A long time ago, we lived with the water, with the sun. Today, young people, it's different, you know. You go in the restaurant, everybody's on cell phones, they're on laptops, you know. Everybody's got flashing lights, you know. Seems like the world is turning too fast, you know. We're so bound up. Fast world, you know. Just look at this place. Beautiful.
We're the easternmost of the Salish people. They call us interior Salish, and the coastal Salish are, of course, on the coast. And we have 3 tribes on this reservation: Pondrea, Kalispel, Bitterroot Salish, and then Kootenay. And that's where the name Kalispel comes from. So all these are Salish names that kind of, mixed in from here to the coast. This office here, this culture committee, there's one here representing the Salish and the Kalispels, and there's one up in Elmo that represents the Kootenay people.
Who is this?
Chief Charlo, he was the Bitterroot Salish chief. This culture committee was established in 1974. The ones with the bigger paintings are the original elders of that time.
There's my grandfather.
Oh, really?
Talk about him all the time. He kind of raised me.
Here?
Yeah. Alec Beaverhead. That's my dad over there.
This one?
Yeah, he was the first war dance chief. Now I'm a war dance chief after all these years. Yeah. Yeah, all these people I've known.
We all speak a little bit differently, but we can understand each other. We're all reviving our languages, We're down to a couple handfuls of speakers.
We used to talk to each other all day in Indian, Big hats, moccasins, women would wear shawls, sing their own songs, talking Indian. And one day I woke up, they're all gone. Languages went. It's not just here, it's everywhere. And what happens when I pass away? What happens when the only one left, that talks Indian all day, What's going to happen, The language, the way we live, the waters, the air, the land, the earth, it's important,
Meeting with these men and hearing their stories really drove home how boating is such an integral part of our shared heritage as Americans, and how throughout history, people have come together and relied on the waterways and ecosystems as a vital resource. After learning about the early canoes and kayaks that tribes used, I was curious to learn when power boats first arrived here. There aren't many better people to speak to about that time period than Bruce Young, who grew up on the lake and has been here for decades. Bruce is the son of Stanley C. Young, who co-founded StanCraft Wooden Boat Company back in 1933, a well-known American boat brand that built Flathead Lake's first boat-building factory and was responsible for some of the most iconic designs in boating history.
I grew up on Flathead Lake in Lakeside, Montana. My family's been involved in the boat business all my life. It was pretty magical when you first grew up on the lake here, since our family owned and operated a marina and manufactured Mahogany runabouts and cruisers. Growing up on the lake was always exciting in the summertime. My dad started building his first boat when he was going to college in Missoula, Montana. He built his first runabout with the owner of the Ford Motor Company in Missoula, Montana. And then he came back and was starting to build boats here in the 30s, and the war broke out, so he went to Seattle and went to work for a company building Navy PT boats and picket boats called the Shane Boat Works right under the Lake Union Bridge. My dad ended up running that company till the end of the war and delivering those PT boats to the Navy. And then after the war, he came back to Montana and started building boats, more private runabouts and cruisers for people after World War II. Boat racing became quite popular in Montana. The early days of the 30s and 40s, Montana boat racing was so popular that they would have Tommy Dorsey or Glenn Miller come in and play on the banks of the river in Polson, and they'd have a 3-day boat race going on there. And frankly, a lot of Montanans still hold boat racing records from those days. And in the 50s, we had unlimited hydroplanes come into Polson Bay 2 years in a row in 55 and 56. And then after that, we had full-blown 7-liters. They were fast boats and very exciting. My brother is not only a famous boat builder and designer, but he's also a famous restorer of boats. He started building his own boats the time he was 14. He was always the creator, the chemist, the alchemy, and he would build these fantastic boats, and I'd get to go out and drive them all the time. It was great fun. Probably 80 to 100 boats he's built himself. He's also restored, in the last 30 years or so, he's restored over 800 boats. And it could be correct craft, it could be a Chris Craft, it could be a Hacker, you name it, in Mahogany boats, and he has restored it. They ship them from around the country to him. I brought back a sailboat built in 1914 in San Francisco under the name Active. It won the San Francisco Cup in 1915, and I brought it back to Montana, restored it, and sailed it back in the 70s and lived on it one summer. It was a fabulous race boat. It was like owning a Ferrari of its time. I tell you why I like boats and boating. It's the last bastion of freedom left, and it's the way to get away from all of it and just go out there and commute with nature a little bit better. I'm Bruce Young, and Flathead Lake is my stomping grounds.
After some great adventures on Flathead Lake, we decided it was time to head north towards Glacier National Park and explore a bit more of the river life. In Stomping Grounds, we usually explore powerboats or sailboats, but the rivers of Montana are home to human-powered vessels such as kayaks, canoes, and rafts, famously providing some of the best whitewater rafting areas in the world.
Montana's Glacier National Park is one of the crown jewels of the national park system, providing over 1,500 miles of glacier-fed streams bounded by the north and middle fork of the Flathead River. In the spring, when temperatures rise and the snowpack begins to melt, a rush of water comes raging down the mountains to join streams and rivers and create whitewater rapids that recreational boaters come from around the world to conquer. The streams here are corridors for spawning fish, eagles, ducks, otters, beavers, and numerous other species.
My name's John Clausen. We're right next door to Glacier National Park at Glacier Raft Company. Glacier National Park, Northwest Montana overall, is pretty unique in the country. It's one of the most intact ecosystems left in the lower 48 states. We have a wild and scenic river just behind me here that is really pretty special. We take people whitewater rafting. It's really what we do.
Who's ready to go rafting? It is our bus driver, Bubba. Give it up for Bubba. Bubba is the only narcoleptic CDL holder in the state of Montana.
All right, guys, we're learning how to get set up here for a little whitewater rafting.
Our half-day whitewater section's a class 2-3 section. Early in the spring, we got a lot of water moving through there. Snow melt is what drives this river. So in the springtime, water melting, that snow melting really pushes that river to a pretty high level. And then as we go through the summer, it starts dropping down. It's fun class 2-3 most of the season.
Yeah, here we go. All right, we just hopped on and we're gonna play a little bumper boats here.
Early in the season, big volume, a lot of water. You're really kind of looking for that sweet spot in each rapid. And then as the water drops, rocks start showing up, and it's a lot of maneuvering to get around those rocks. Could actually be a lot of fun too. There's a lot of sizes, a lot of styles of whitewater boats. Most rafts that you buy today are what we call self-bailing, so they can take on water and that water is able to leave the boat. You want to match the size of your boat to the size of the whitewater. So the smaller the boat, the sportier the ride. The bigger the boat, the bigger water you can run.
So here we are on the middle fork of the Flathead River. Izzy with Glacier Raft Company is showing us the ropes here.
The beginning of our rapid section.
Oh, nice. First rapids down. I think we did pretty good, right?
Yeah, we nailed that one.
We're
gonna need to make some quick moves. It's kind of a guide ejector, so.
Second rapids down. Was that one more fun than the first one, guys?
Yeah.
It's cool how fast the boat drains the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you guys are looking for a really unique way to see Glacier National Park and you want a little family adventure, rafting is one of the best ways to do it. Glacier Raft Company, we've got a lot of trips to offer, whether it's a family-friendly scenic float, something a little more adventurous out on that white water. We got something for everybody, and it's a pretty unique trip.
You guys want to jump in? Oh, is he going in?
Oh.
For the viewers.
Not that bad. Actually, it feels kind of good.
It does, it does. Yeah, it does.
I imagine for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
My life has been saved. We can carry on. All right, guys, just had a great ride down the Middle Fork River on Flathead River there in Glacier National Park. I am tired out. My arms are shaking, but that was a great whitewater rafting adventure. And I think we're ready to kick back and go check out the Going to the Sun Road and see the sunset.
Relatively few miles of road exist in Glacier National Park, thus preserving its unspoiled natural beauty. But going to the Sun Road offers a solitary route through the rugged landscape with spectacular vistas at every turn, making it truly a photographer's paradise.
Here we are at Logan Pass. This is the highest elevation on the Going to the Sun Road. And if any of y'all want to take a spectacular drive, this is one of the top in America. Beautiful vistas. You can look down to the creeks and the rivers below and the amazing peaks all around.
On our drive back down, we were getting ready to say goodbye to Glacier National Park in this area. But the park had one more surprise in store for us. Next to the road, a brown bear emerged from the woods just to see us off. This encounter capped off a magical experience in Montana's Big Sky Country.
Sunsets in this place are when time slows down. And as the light fades over the soaring mountains, you can plainly see why Teddy Roosevelt fought so hard to protect places like these.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining us for this episode of Stomping Grounds. We hope you've enjoyed exploring some really cool Montana boating life with us. We sure have. And don't forget, if you've got a cool boating story you want us to come check out, send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Maybe we'll come to your neck of the woods next. Also, follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all the stuff the cool kids are doing these days. This is Ryan McVinney with Boat Trader. Stay floating, America. We'll see you next time.
What's your stomping grounds? Follow us on youtube.com/BoatTrader and on Instagram at BoatTraderUSA and share your boating stories for a chance to be featured. Who knows, maybe we'll come to your neighborhood next. This is Boat Trader's Stomping Grounds.